أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يعلم الله الذين جاهدوا منكم ويعلم الصابرين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. صلى على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، سيما بقية الله في الأرضين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you're all doing well. First of all, sorry, I'm back to this background for today. Fantastic. If you could put your hands up if you can hear me. All right, excellent. So I think you guys can all see the soliloquy that I've posted. If you can't, if somebody could do the courtesy of resharing it for those who have newly joined, because I don't think it shows up for them if they have just joined. Actually, let me try and do that. Now, some of you might be wondering why I've posted a soliloquy of Hamlet, this very famous soliloquy from Shakespeare. In fact, I might argue this is the single most famous soliloquy in all of the works of Shakespeare. Brother Kyle has just said that Shakespeare gives him anxiety. And somebody else is saying crazy Hamlet. The dear host is saying that, in fact. Yeah, don't worry. Everybody gets anxious at Shakespeare. I don't know if it's just in the UK, but do you guys have to study this in America as well? Put your hand up if you have to study it in your countries, or if you've seen something like this before, or if you found to Shakespeare at all in your studies. All right, so we a couple of people. I'm surprised at that. All right, that's cool. All right, so as I said, it is the single most famous quote to be or not to be? That is the question. Now, this is what we're actually going to be looking at today, and you might think that's really strange. Well, these sessions have afforded me time to actually look back at my past and think to myself, when did I actually start reading the Quran? And for me, it took place at university. At university, I'd be studying English literature. And of course, we look at English and American literature, and a bulk of those studies go into Shakespeare in particular. Now, it's definitely something that will make you feel a little bit hesitant, and the language is off. You know, it comes from Old English, and it's very poetic, and it's very difficult to understand. Um, unless you have a teacher with you, or unless you're like me and you've got dark notes. But I realized that a lot of the things that I was reading in the Quran at that time, the reason Allah helped me to understand it is because we were so thoroughly learning the process of analyzing words and word play through all sorts of literature. And Shakespeare is a really good example for that. So what we're going to do is, inshallah, we're going to try to actually analyze this quote from Shakespeare. And inshallah, this is, by the way, a huge experiment. So please forgive me if it goes wrong. But what I want to do is to increase our level of analysis. And alhamdulillah, you know, I did teacher training as well in English literature. So this is going to be a useful exercise for all of us to better understand the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because essentially, dear brothers and sisters, if there's one takeaway from all of these sessions, I feel it would be to increase your analytical skills. If you can analyze better what you are looking at, regardless of the type of translation that you're looking at, because translations are quite old, then it will definitely help you. So the first thing that we're going to do is set the scene. Okay, so this soliloquy is being said by Hamlet, and Hamlet is a very sporadic character. Okay, he's very introspective. He thinks a heck of a lot. He's very philosophical. When he's supposed to jump into the battlefield, he doesn't do it because his conscience holds him back. And when he's supposed to hold back, sometimes he gets frustrated and he just dives in and he might end up killing someone, like he kills his father-in-law to be. Sorry to give away anything. I'm sure you guys aren't that interested in Shakespeare, right? This isn't that important. It's not about Shakespeare, guys. It's about increasing our analytical skills. So a point comes in the narrative when he actually goes to a grave. In that grave, he finds the skull of his old servant. Okay, so Hamlet comes from a very wealthy family, he's royalty. He's had lots of slaves in the past. And he picks up the skull of one of these slaves and he's holding it in his hand. If you guys have ever gone to a Shakespeare play, a lot of it doesn't come down to the language, but the visual. And that's why the first thing that I want to say when we're going into this is it's very important to visualize what we are reading. Okay, so now imagine he's holding this skull in his hand and he's now thinking. What is a soliloquy? A soliloquy is basically a passage of text, which is just the character speaking, and so that you can hear what he's thinking. Okay, so he's basically thinking aloud to himself so that you can understand everything that's going on inside that character's mind. Okay, so he's holding the skull. That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. A round of applause, very much. You're all welcome. Clap your hands. Ah. Oh, it just throws me back to my days of doing drama and analyzing these things. I haven't read that in so long. Okay, so what did you guys gain from that? What did you actually gain from it? And this is going to be a two-way street, guys. I want you to first give me your immediate thoughts, and I don't mind. Just splash your thoughts into the chat, inshallah, and we'll pick them up from there and we'll have a look at what you have to say. But did anything stand out to you? And first of all, put your hands up if it made absolutely no sense to you and it just sounded like absolute drivel. Good complex sentence structures. All right. Is it better to be or not to be? And then he says, whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. So he's saying that this world is full of so many slings, like stones and arrows that come flying at you from every direction. It's outrageous fortune. By the way, outrageous fortune, you see that these are two opposites. This is uh, sometimes it's referred to as a kind of a juxtaposition where you put two opposite words next to each other, right? And what does this convey? That comes down to you to actually extrapolate and analyze, right? And but then the idea here is that he's actually saying no more, you know? Uh, no, actually, that's not in this soliloquy. It's in another soliloquy. Are you guys prepared to be impressed? Because I'm about to show off. Straight up. Uh, he says, oh, that this too solid flesh would melt thaw and resolve itself into a dew, or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Fie on it. 'Tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed, things rank and gross possess it merely. If you're looking for this in the text that I've sent, it would be there. This is another soliloquy that I'm sending to you. Uh, yeah, this is from another soliloquy. Okay, some people are saying they can hear me, but the video is frozen. It's my fault. I'm sorry. I should have gone to the studio today, but I couldn't make it. But can you again, guys, just because I'm not sure if you can hear me, put your hands up if you can hear me. All right, brilliant. Okay, so most people can hear me, so it might be a problem from your end. If somebody can just let them know. Okay, so in this other soliloquy which I've quoted, he says, all that God had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter. He's actually saying, I wish God had not made it haram for us to kill ourselves. Wow. Why did I choose these soliloquies? I mean, Hamlet is really dark, and that's probably why it's my favorite Shakespeare play. Um, and a lot of what we studied in English literature was to do with really dark themes and suicide and things like that. But the point here is somebody actually picked up from this soliloquy about how it's about this comparison between sacrifice and mundanity. And that is a common theme. So that's really interesting how that person picked it up, Brother Moeed. Um, Sister Someira says, reading that after 30 years or so rebounds in a different context, current, i.e., in current day world news. All right, so let's see a show of hands, because I'm really surprised actually that you guys are picking up so much. I remember when I used to just come to these soliloquies in class, you'd just be completely blank. You don't know what to think of it, and you don't even know because the teacher doesn't often emphasize how you're allowed to think for yourself. That's one of the things that I really am thankful for. English literature teaches you to do that, and any literature that you guys would follow in your respective countries. But let me see if you can put your hands up, if you can find this soliloquy relatable in any way. All right. Okay, so not that many people. Okay, I'm just going to read some other quotes that you guys have done. Okay, so Fatima Hadab says sleep equals death equals ignoring justice. Action equals take up arms and struggles. Very good extrapolation there. Fantastic, mashallah. Um, and yeah, you could definitely juxtapose these two contradictory ideas. One of them just being to sleep or to die, right? And just ignoring the injustice that's taking place. And one of them is to actually take action and take up arms and to struggle. By the way, I just want to point out, Sister Fatim Hatab, you've extrapolated that just from this soliloquy, and this is actually one of the central themes of the entire play, because it's all talking about how Hamlet is conflicted by these two options in his life. Should I just ignore all these terrible things that are happening around me and go to sleep? Or should I do some sort of action? And one of the biggest criticisms of the character of Hamlet, one of the things that makes him so multidimensional, is that he struggles to take action. He's described by a very specific word, and that is capricious. He's capricious because one time he's thinking this, another time he's thinking that, and he's just always deliberating. Definitely, definitely relatable for me. Um, Brother Aqil Hyder is saying, whenever the sound or video goes, restarting Zoom seems to do the trick. I hope you guys got that. Brother Kyle Williams, what is the risk that makes a calamity of a long life? It takes huh? It seems he is saying that fear of death makes calamitous. So is that correct? Ah, see, okay, you don't need to ask if that's correct. If you can extrapolate that and back it up with evidence, then you are correct. Nobody is actually wrong in English literature. And that's one of the fantastic things about, especially at university level, but even in high school or secondary school, you are allowed. I could just, completely refute the teacher. I'd say, I completely disagree with you. I never did that, by the way, because, I want good grades. But the floor is always open to do that, right? So as long as you can back it up, you're welcome to do that. And again, taking this back to the Quran, dear brothers and sisters, remember, I told you, Imam Khamenei said this specifically. It's not incumbent upon you to accept my interpretation or anybody else's interpretation or tafsir. No, go to the Quran. You'll see that there are so many layers and so many dimensions that you can actually extrapolate. It's just ongoing. Okay, so Sister Nida says, or to take up arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them, to die to see. It reminded me of us in comparison to the Taghut. Ooh, very, very, very interesting. Perhaps you could extrapolate about that, inshallah. But yeah, I mean, I think we're all going through this internal conflict. In one sense, dear brothers and sisters, we're all Hamlets because we can all see that there's something desperately wrong with the world, and we're constantly deliberating within ourselves. Is it right to do this? Should I do that? Should I do that? Or will I regret it? And then sometimes we just sporadically do things. Allah just makes us do things. And those are the moments that we might be thankful for. Maybe a bit relatable because Sister Sayyidah Mahdiya is saying, because what he's saying gives me the idea that it takes a big deal of bravery and dare to stand against the calamities and troubles. Fantastic. Brother Akil Nasser, I'm wondering, does anyone think this? It's not enough to recognize the evils of the world, not want any of the world, and tap out of life, that you need to take up arms and fight the evils. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. How did you even extrapolate that? Man, you wish I could go back in time with everything that I know now, back to my uni days, and I'm going to be like, hey, I've got all this. Wow, fantastic. By the way, I'm really surprised at this. Sister to that comment saying, this is true, but difficult to carry out in the thick and face of it. Truly a test of faith. Ah, a very Hamlet thing to say there. That's exactly the kind of thing that Hamlet would say. Obviously, in more Shakespearean language, but you summed it up. Sister Fatima Fa said, what could we do if we feel desperate in not knowing what to do? There's the rub. What do you do? Right? Okay. I am really surprised at the extraordinary things that you guys are extrapolating. And of course, what you are sharing, I'm assuming, is the typical